The chairs were white plastic, 1,000 of them, perfectly aligned on the turf like bleached bones, like a cemetery made for dreams instead of the dead. Some tilted in the grass. Some sagged beneath the weight of proud parents. I sat in the back, left side, near the edge of the speaker tower, close enough to see the stage but far enough to disappear when I needed to. The sun was too bright for what the day would cost me. The graduates filed in by twos, blue robes rustling in the breeze, tassels twitching with each footstep, smiles painted across faces that had never known what it meant to earn anything with more than a student loan signature. I found Mike in the 4th column, 2nd row, shoulders back, chin high. My suit itched. The collar had never sat right on my neck, but I wore it anyway. Linda asked me to. She said, "You'll want to look nice for the pictures." There would be no pictures. Mike didn't look back at the crowd, didn't scan the rows for me, not once. He knew where I sat. I told him in a text that morning. "I'll be there, left side, 2nd section back." He left it on read. Not that I needed acknowledgement. That's not why I came. I came because I paid for the seat he graduated from. His tuition, his housing, his health insurance, his car, the beat-up Mazda he parked half a mile from campus because he didn't want anyone seeing him drive something that didn't speak privilege. The clothes he wore under the robe, paid for, his student meal plan, his monthly allowance, the dental copay when he chipped a molar in freshman year doing God knows what at a house party. All of it, covered, by me. I didn't do it for thanks. At least that's what I used to tell myself. I did it so he wouldn't feel the way I did at his age. Clawing for scraps, watching doors close before I even got my hand to the knob. I did it because I thought if I stood tall in the storm, maybe he'd learn what it meant to be a man. A father. Provider. Instead, I taught him how to ignore a man's worth the moment his wallet is empty. The ceremony dragged. Speeches. Applause. Laughter. The university president mispronounced a few names, pausing only once to correct himself, for a donor's son. Figures. I sat still. Didn't clap longer than anyone else. Didn't smile wider. Just kept my hands on my knees and waited for the part that mattered. And then, finally, they called him. Michael Ryan Halverson. Linda's last name. Not mine. Never mine. He walked across the stage like it was a victory lap. I'd seen that walk before. On game days. On prom night. On the day he left for college, when I loaded every last box into the trunk while he texted his girlfriend from the porch. He took the mic. The crowd leaned in. It wasn't his place to speak. Not officially. But when has that ever stopped him? He adjusted the stand and smiled. "I just want to take a second to say thank you," he began. Voice calm. Practiced. Every syllable scrubbed of humility. To my mom, who never gave up on me. To my real dad, for showing me what strength looks like. To my professors and friends, you believed in me even when I didn't. That was it. That was the list. My name wasn't on it. My presence erased. My years buried. Linda clapped. She laughed, actually. Proud, watery laugh. Like nothing had been missed. Like that real dad line wasn't a bullet fired straight through my chest. I saw her hand reach up to wipe a tear. Maybe two. Was it joy? Was it guilt? Couldn't tell. She wore that same face the day her ex showed up drunk at our door, asking for a check to cover a rehab bill he never went to. She told me not to answer, then said I was overreacting when I changed the locks. The clapping grew louder. People stood. I didn't. I stayed seated, let my hands drop to my sides, and felt something inside me curl in on itself. Not a wound, not exactly. Just an old tendon snapping loose after years of holding up too much weight. After the ceremony, families swarmed the lawn. Cameras flashed. Mothers cried. Dads with guts and polos hugged sons who looked just like them. I didn't line up for photos. Didn't chase them down to offer congratulations. I walked past the vendor tables, past the honor cords for sale, past the booth selling proud parent t-shirts for $15 each. Nobody offered me one. Maybe they knew. Maybe there's a scent a man gives off when he's finally realized he was just a sponsor with a smile. I made it to the car before my chest started burning. Not pain. Not quite. More like pressure. like something inside had been waiting to collapse. I loosened the tie, started the engine, put on no music. 2 hours later, I pulled into a roadside motel west of Des Moines. One of those one-story places with rooms that smelled like old coffee and furniture that knew too many secrets. I checked in without speaking, paid in cash, told the clerk I'd only need one night. He asked if I was passing through. No, I said. Just done. The room was cold. I didn't turn on the lights, just laid down on the stiff mattress and let the silence chew through the edges of my thoughts. At 7:14 p.m., my phone buzzed. Linda. I didn't answer. 7:22. Again. Then Mike. 7:38. 7:41. 7:52. A message? Where are you? Then another. Are you coming to dinner? Then nothing. Then a burst. Missed call. Missed call. Missed call. 14 times before midnight. I watched each one light up the screen, then fade back into darkness. Like little fires I refused to put out. I could have said something. I could have texted back. Congratulations. I could have driven back, joined them at that overpriced restaurant she'd picked out 3 months ago, let Mike shake my hand and pretend the stage moment never happened. But I didn't, because the moment he took that microphone and said, "Real Dad," he didn't just forget me. He rewrote the past. He painted over 16 years of rent checks, college funds, emergency room drives, and broken down cars with 3 words that cut like a scalpel. He had chosen, publicly, loudly, and now I had heard him finally, fully. That night, I stared at the water stain on the motel ceiling until my eyes burned. I thought about the years, about the first time I helped him with homework, about the night I stayed up until 3 a.m. fixing the brakes on his car so he wouldn't miss school, about the hospital bills from the flu that knocked him out sophomore year, when Linda was out of state and his real dad was between numbers. I thought about how much I'd given, not because I wanted to be thanked, but because I thought maybe being there was enough. Turns out, being there is invisible when you're not the man in the photos. The last time my phone rang, it was 11:56 p.m. I let it ring through, then I turned it face down on the nightstand. And I slept like a man who'd finally stopped pretending he belonged. I didn't check out that morning. I left the motel key on the pillow like a final offering and drove until the fields of Iowa turned into something unrecognizable. Beige buildings, empty roads, a different kind of silence, not peace, but the kind that follows something broken. When I finally stopped, it was at a diner off the interstate. Vinyl booths, weak coffee, waitresses with too much blush and smiles that didn't reach their eyes. I ordered black coffee and eggs I didn't eat. I sat alone with the receipts of my life unfolding in my lap. Not paper, but memory. Mike had used my name. That's how the manager said it. Like a casual detail. "We just need confirmation on the lease renewal, Mr. Allen, since you're still listed as the guarantor." My fingers went still around the coffee mug. I didn't sign anything. Silence on the other end. Then shuffling. Then hesitation. "I'm showing a signature from 2 weeks ago." He sent it over. Scanned. Pixelated. But unmistakable. My name. My writing. Or something close enough. I hung up before my voice could betray the depth of what I felt. Drove back to the motel. This time I turned the lights on. Sat on the bed. Pulled out my laptop. Logged into the shared bank account I hadn't touched since the semester started. There it was. A transfer. $500. Labeled, furniture. Just temp. Another gas and moving stuff. We'll pay back. They always say they'll pay back. Then the rent hits. Then the Wi-Fi goes out. Then Mike calls Linda and says he's stressed. And I'm the one wiring cash before class starts Monday. Every time. They had signed the lease in my name. Backdated. Falsified. Or maybe worse, maybe they actually believed it was okay. That after 4 years of free college, a free car, and a paid-for apartment, what was one more document? One more signature from the man who never said no? I closed the laptop. Sat in the dark again. Only this time I wasn't hollow. I was clean. That kind of clarity only comes after a betrayal so simple it insults your intelligence. I had begged for a place in this family. Now I knew exactly where I stood. Not as father, not even as man. Just as checkbook. I called the bank. I need to file a fraud report. They transferred me. Forms were sent. Passwords changed. VoicePrint enabled. I drove to the branch in person that same afternoon, because some things deserve a signature they can't fake. I sat with a woman in a pale green blouse while she typed faster than she talked. Once the report is in the system, she said, the lease becomes disputed, which means payments are frozen, utilities are paused, and if the landlord can't requalify the tenant, they'll be evicted. Her eyes flicked up. Do you want to proceed? I looked at her. Not cruel. Not angry. Just resolved. Yes, I said. Let the landlord figure it out. Took 4 minutes. When I walked out of that building, the sky had turned gray. Not threatening. Just honest. The phone rang an hour later. I let it go. Then again. This time it was Linda. I picked up. You canceled the lease? She said, no greeting. No. I canceled my silence. They're calling me non-stop, she snapped. Mike says the property manager's threatening legal action. Then Mike can explain why he forged my name. He didn't forge it. He signed it. He thought it was okay. Just temporary. We talked about it. No, we didn't. Silence. He was scared you'd say no, she offered, like that made it better. Then he should have asked. She sighed. Deep. Long tired of being caught in things she allowed. They'll be homeless by the weekend. I didn't answer. You can't just leave him hanging. I paused. I already did. For 4 years. She went quiet again. I hung up. I wasn't angry. That part had burned out long ago. This wasn't vengeance. This was correction. A red line drawn under the lies they told themselves every time they cashed my support without asking what it cost. Later that night, the texts came. From Mike. Dude. WTF. Then. They're saying I'm evicted unless I pay $6,000 by Friday. Are you serious right now? No greeting. No apology. Just panic typed like it was my fault for following the law. Then another. Mom said you're doing this to prove a point. What point? I'm still your son, man. This is messed up. He wasn't my son. He had made that clear. Stage mic in hand. Real dad beaming in the crowd. I let him drown in his own consequences. By morning, I changed every password tied to my name. Cut off all shared accounts. Froze the gas card he used. Flagged the insurance plan I still stupidly listed him under. His name was removed from my mobile plan by noon. I called my lawyer after lunch. Not because I planned to sue, but because I needed everything documented: timelines, signatures, financial trails, paper armor. He read over the documents. They signed as you? Yes. Without consent? Yes. He exhaled. You have every right to press this. Want to? Not yet. Let them sweat first. He nodded. Anything else? I paused. Can you make sure they never do this again? He smiled, not unkindly. Absolutely. The power in that moment wasn't about control. It was about removal. For the first time in 16 years, I was pulling myself out of their mess before it became mine. Mike texted again. They froze my utilities. I have class tomorrow. What do I do? The temptation was there. The old reflex: save him. Cover it. Make it better. But I didn't move. Because here's the truth. He had planned this. Maybe not maliciously, but certainly with confidence. Confidence that I wouldn't fight back. That I'd cave like always. That I'd foot the bill and ask for nothing but a nod and a grunt at Thanksgiving. He thought he was smarter than me. He thought my silence was permanent. They used my name without asking. Now they'd learn what my name costs. Linda showed up at my office 2 days later. No warning. No appointment. Just walked in like she still had that right. I can't do this anymore, she said, standing there like a statue made of regret. Do what? This hostility. The way you're handling it. You're tearing everything apart. I didn't tear anything. I just stopped taping it together. Her eyes filled. I didn't reach for her. You're going to let him fail? He already did. He's your family. I shook my head. No, he's yours. I was just the one who paid. The silence stretched between us like a dried tendon about to snap. She took a step back. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked. He's scared, Michael. He's not a bad kid. He just made a mistake. 4 years of mistakes. You were beside him for every one. She looked away. I leaned forward, hands folded. You don't get to stand in my doorway and ask me to fix what you broke. You raised a boy who learned to take without asking. And now he's shocked the well ran dry. You're punishing all of us. No, I'm releasing myself from a contract you never honored. She left without another word. That night, I drove home to a place that was still technically ours. The hallway was dark. The kitchen smelled of nothing. There were no pictures on the fridge anymore. I had started pulling them down one by one since the graduation. Not in anger, just to remember what the walls looked like before I believed I belonged there. The final one, a Christmas photo from 2019, showed the 3 of us in matching sweaters. Mike's smile was forced. Linda's eyes were tired. Mine were hopeful. Naive. I peeled the magnet off and placed the picture in a drawer. Then I made a list. Every account, every payment, every favor I'd ever granted in silence. And I began erasing myself. It didn't take long for the foundation to crack. 3 days after I reported the lease fraud, the landlord posted a final notice on the door of Mike's apartment. A thin yellow slip with bold red ink. Eviction pending, 72 hours. I didn't see it myself, but he sent me a photo, as if the image alone would shame me into paying. I'm literally going to be homeless, the message said. After everything? Seriously? I didn't reply. He followed with a voice message, one I didn't listen to. It sat in my inbox, time-stamped and pleading. I watched the waveform move without touching play. If he wanted to be heard, he should have spoken differently in front of 1,000 people on a football field stage. He should have remembered who kept the roof above him long before he forged my name to hold one without me. On Friday, the electricity was shut off. I only knew because Linda called in tears. They've turned off the power, Michael. He's sitting in the dark. No AC. No hot water. He says they might lock him out completely tomorrow. Good, I said. Her voice caught. How can you say that? Because now he gets to learn what I paid for all these years. Every flip of a light switch. Every time he turned on a faucet. Every hot meal that wasn't made on a camping stove. I paid for all of it. Can't you just help until he finds another place? I did, I said flatly. For 4 years. That was the help. You're really going to let your name be the reason he gets kicked out? No, I'm letting his signature be. She didn't reply. There was a long silence, that kind of heavy, pregnant quiet that only forms when someone realizes they're no longer in control of the story. I ended the call first. I knew the next move wouldn't be Linda's. She always held back, waited for the storm to pass. She'd never confront it. She'd just watch it, hands folded, eyes wet, hoping someone else would play the adult. She had played neutral for so long that she forgot what silence permits. The next morning, the texts came in like missiles. Mike again. I'm locked out. All my stuff's inside. I tried to talk to the manager, but they said it's legal now. They're keeping everything unless I pay. Then, I can't even get my laptop. I have exams. Do you want me to fail? Then, Mom said you can fix this. She said it's just a call. Just send the payment and it's done. Please. He used the word please. That was new. But not enough. I kept a list. It started that day, a physical ledger, leather-bound, black, the kind accountants used when men still wrote things by hand. I wrote every expense, every unspoken favor. 4 years of tuition, rent, meals, cars, doctors, laptops, textbooks, emergency transfers, and now the cost of legal cleanup. I didn't tally the sum. That wasn't the point. The point was to remember what he never had to. It wasn't until a formal letter arrived, certified, thick with paperwork, that the weight of consequence came crashing down. A legal notice. The landlord had beg asterisk and a claim. Not just against Mike. Against me. My name still tied to the lease, still on the contract, even if the signature was forged. The fraud report delayed the process, but didn't prevent it. They were playing hardball now. A lawyer's letterhead, copy of the lease, a demand for restitution. I took the letter to my own attorney. He scanned it, raised one eyebrow. They're bluffing, he said. They want a settlement fast. You already reported the fraud. Their case is cracked. Let it crack, I said. I won't pay a cent. He nodded. Then we'll hold. File for dismissal. Keep the record clean. A week later, my financial advisor helped me move the last of my accounts. Every penny not tied to shared obligations went into new holdings. I withdrew from the 529 plan I'd opened in Mike's name. A college savings account Linda never knew about. There was over $11,000 left. I transferred it to my private account and closed the portfolio. It was supposed to fund his last year of school. Now it would fund my exit. Mike didn't ask about it. Maybe he never knew it existed. But he did ask about his tuition. Another message. I just got the bill. They're saying I owe $9,200. Can't enroll without it. You always paid this. I don't get it. What changed? He didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask why I'd stopped. He just asked why the money wasn't there. What changed? Everything. Everything except him. Linda came home late that Friday. She stood in the kitchen like she didn't recognize the walls anymore. I was pouring bourbon over ice, one finger's worth. No music. Just the sound of the cubes cracking in the glass. I saw the statement, she said. You pulled his college fund. Yes. Why? Because it was mine. I opened it. I funded it. I chose to stop. Her face fell. That was his future. No, I said. That was the future I tried to build for him. He chose something else. He's just a kid. He's 22. Old enough to sign a lease. Old enough to choose whose name to say on stage. She didn't argue after that. Not really. She stood in silence, arms crossed, tears in her throat but not her eyes. He's not going back to school, she said. That's not my concern. What about his job? He can get one, or lose one. Either way, not my concern. You're really going to walk away like this? No, I said. I'm going to walk back. Back to the life I had before I signed on to raise someone who didn't want me. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she asked. Because I couldn't stand the bed we'd shared for 15 years. I bought that bed. Paid every cent. And yet it no longer felt like mine. Mike called again the next day. Not to apologize. To negotiate. Look, I get it. Okay. I get that you're pissed. But can you just help for one more semester? Just one. After that I'm done. I won't ask again. I'll figure it out. That's what they always say. Just this once. Just until. I didn't reply. The day after, Linda tried again. He's sleeping in his car, Michael. Good. Now he'll appreciate a bed. This is cruel. This is balance. Balance. Weight returned to its rightful owners. She looked at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe this was the first time I'd stood without apology. I left that night. Drove to the other house, the one I bought before Linda, before Mike, before all of this. The one with the loose floorboard in the hallway and the smell of old pine in the walls. I kept it all these years. Rented it out. Maintained it. A small, stubborn part of me always knew I'd need somewhere to return to. I opened the door. Turned on the light. The bulb flickered once. Then held. The silence was different here. Not like the motel. Not like the house I left. This silence was mine. In the days that followed, the messages slowed. Linda stopped calling. Mike tried once more, a single line. You've made your point. He didn't ask me to come back. He didn't say sorry. He didn't say anything about what he'd learned. That's when I knew the point had never landed. He still thought this was about punishment. It wasn't. It was about removal. About unhooking the machinery I'd built beneath his life. About stepping back and letting him hear the gears grind to a halt. He thought my money was a resource, a guarantee. He never realized it was a choice. A week later, I boxed up every photo that included him. Graduation, Christmas, summer road trips. They went into the attic of the old house. Not in anger, but in record. A reminder, not of the boy I raised, but of the man who erased me. I lived alone now. Not by title, the marriage hadn't ended, not on paper, but in practice. In space. In silence. Linda stayed in the house we once shared. The one filled with things I bought and memories I now wished I hadn't. Mike wasn't there anymore. He moved out, or was pushed out, or vanished into the same air that once carried his graduation speech. Wherever he was, it wasn't my concern. I went to work, came home, cooked for one, slept like a man who didn't dream anymore. And I liked it. The other house, the first house, became mine again in the way old things do. Not with celebration, but with recognition. Like an old jacket that still fits when everything else has worn out. The pipes creaked. The faucet in the upstairs bathroom still dripped. But it was honest. No noise here rang false. Nothing asked me to be someone I wasn't. Nothing pretended I mattered while secretly wishing I'd leave. I emptied drawers that hadn't been touched in years. Found old tax returns, handwritten letters from a version of Linda who still looked at me like I was her future. I didn't read them. I burned them in the metal barrel out back and watched the smoke crawl into the dusk. It wasn't anger that fueled the fire. It was clarity. You can love someone and still be better without them. Linda called twice that first week. I let them ring. The third time, she left a message. She always left messages when her strength was thin. "I just want to talk," she said, voice brittle. "I want to know where we go from here. What happens next?" What happens next? I filed the separation paperwork 2 days later. Not divorce. Not yet. Just the legal groundwork. Just enough to draw boundaries around my life before someone else erased it again. The notary didn't ask questions. She stamped the forms, slid them back across the counter, and wished me luck. I didn't need luck. I needed air. The day I cut the last financial tie, I sat on the back porch with a glass of cold water and nothing else. No phone, no bills, just me, the hum of summer insects, and the simple relief of a man no longer being bled dry. It was over, but endings have a way of echoing. The first echo came on a Monday. A letter in the mail. Not legal, not formal, just a folded piece of lined paper in a plain white envelope. No return address. Postmarked from Cedar Falls. Mike. The handwriting was his. Still boyish, still full of the arrogance that scribbles instead of writes. I read it once. Then again. It said, "I messed up. I know that now. You were there when I needed someone, and I didn't see it. I thought it didn't matter. I thought dads were optional if you already had one. But he's not around. Not really. He's never really been. I get that now. I'm not asking for money. I swear I'm not. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For the stage. For the lease. For everything. I know it's late. I know I don't deserve much. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here. Mike." There was no address, no phone number. Just Mike. Like I'd know where to find him if I wanted to. As if a man who spent years disappearing behind his mother's silence could suddenly reappear through apology. I folded the letter. Placed it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not because I hated him. Because I didn't trust the words. Apology without restitution is just performance. If he wanted forgiveness, he'd have to build it. Brick by brick. Without asking me to hand him the tools again. A week passed. Then another. Linda called once more. This time I picked up. "Hi," she said. Quiet. Careful. Like the wrong sound might break what was left. "Hi. I got the paperwork. I know. I don't want to fight. Neither do I." She was quiet for a long time. "Do you hate me?" I didn't answer right away. "No," I said finally. "I don't hate you. I just don't trust you anymore." She sniffed. "I didn't know about the lease. I swear I didn't." "But you didn't ask. Not when the money came. Not when he said he needed it. You didn't ask where it was from." "I didn't think." "No, you didn't." More silence. The kind that can't be filled. "I keep thinking," she said. About everything you did. About how we just let you do it. Like it was expected. Like you didn't matter as long as the bills were paid. You're not wrong. I'm sorry. So is he. Do you believe us? I looked out at the lawn. Overgrown now. I get to it eventually. Or maybe not. I believe you're sorry things turned out this way. But not sorry enough? Sorry isn't the currency I trade in anymore. She didn't argue. She never really had the strength to. I still love you, she whispered. I loved you too, I said. Then I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. I wish I could say there was a moment after that. Some revelation, some turn, but there wasn't. Just time. Just quiet. Just a man learning to exist without carrying someone else's weight. I saw Mike once more. Months later. A grocery store outside Ames. He looked older. Thinner. He was bagging groceries. Wore the uniform like it scratched. Saw me in the checkout line and froze. We locked eyes. I didn't speak. He nodded. Barely. I nodded back. That was it. And you know what? That was enough. Because in that nod I saw recognition. Not just of who I was, but what I'd done. What I gave. What I stopped giving. He didn't approach. Didn't wave. Just turned back to his work and bagged a stranger's eggs like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. That night, I sat on the porch again. Same glass. Same silence. But something had shifted. Not closure. Not healing. Something else. Ownership. This life, whatever it was mine now. No longer leased out to people who used my love like a credit line. No longer split across 1,000 unspoken expectations. Just mine. And the thing about ownership comes with peace. Not because the past didn't matter, but because I finally mattered more than the past. So I ask you now, whoever you are, wherever you sit with your own paper-thin family ties and the weight of someone else's child on your shoulders, was I wrong? Was I cruel for finally stepping back? Or did I simply choose the only freedom left for a man who gave everything and was thanked with silence? You tell me, would you have stayed? Or would you have walked out the door and never looked back?